All right, in this video we're going to talk about a few more issues that you might have. In this one, it is that the scooter is one wheel will either take off by itself, or you'll start off real slow and all of a sudden it will kick speed and it won't stop until you turn off the scooter. A lot of times for that, it's these two little sensor pads, which of course are located underneath the sensor board. So when you take off that, you'll have these. So if the sensor is doing that, if the board is having those issues, is going by itself, and you got to turn it off in order to stop it, or you start off going real slow and then all of a sudden it just goes real fast out of nowhere, it's usually because these little pads, what happens is these pads go into these little spaces right here. So they fit in there, and what happens is before, if you're not using it, they don't pass into that space. So when you push on it, it's going to press these little rubber things inside of there, which cuts off the circuit and lets it know that that's just the position it needs to go with. But sometimes if these pads, if these little pads are not cut right here at the right level, it will actually be constantly or very easily pushed into that zone between those two marks, and which of course will have it go by itself. And that's why it won't stop until you turn it off. And the one quick fix for that is basically use some scissors, preferably. And if you look on which side is it kind of going towards, rolling in the direction by itself, that's the side that you know you have an issue with. If it goes in either the same thing in both directions, you know you have an issue with both of them. But the key is to have these two, whether you cut them or not, to keep them at the equal level. So on this one, you would just barely snip about, I would say about 2 or 3 millimeters off, maybe like 1/8 of an inch at most, right off the top. And then make sure you keep it level and flush like that. Don't have it at an angle because it won't work properly. Another thing is, if this is bad, make sure that it pops back into place just like that. If it does not, and you pull it out and it stays out, that's another problem we'll talk about in another video. And then also, if the wheel is kind of wobbly, when you're riding it and it feels like something's kind of not right with the wheel itself, it's working properly, but the wheel is just, rough and it goes, or it vibrates. One thing that it could be is to check these 4 bolts to make sure that they're tight. Sometimes, for whatever reason in the manufacturing, they can come loose from, whatever reason. They weren't tightened completely. They didn't put the glue on, whatever. So just kind of get that Allen wrench, which is, in this case, I don't know the exact size, but just go back and make sure that they're all tight and snug. Like this one's a little loose right there, as such. And one thing what we're going to do, because it being loose will cause it to wobble as well, because it has play. So double check that first. If that's good, the next thing is to take it off. We take these out. once you've taken all of these, keep them, if you can, in the same position that you got it out of, so that you know that they came from the same one. So if you look here, you can see that you have a space from the edge to right there. Now it's important to keep it spaced in the center from here to here. You want an even gap on each side because you don't want it rubbing on the plastic. So when you put it on there, make sure that you have an even gap. So when you take that off, hopefully, one other thing that it's possible, like on this one, if you notice, you have a flat surface there and then a flat surface here. Underneath it's round, so it's only natural that it's going to go one way, and that's like this. But this one wasn't. It was actually turned upside down, so that's going to give it that play because it's not seated tightly. This is how it should look, and if you notice, that gap should match that gap right there, that space. So, and then double check on your spaces next to it, make sure they're even, make sure the tire's not touching the plastic, and that's where it should be positioned. Then you simply put that back on there, so you have that flat surface on that flat surface. Start them off by hand so that you don't take a chance at misthreading it or cross-threading, because you don't want to have to be waiting months to get the right size bolts. Okay, so what we're going to do is just kind of get these a little snug first, so that we can keep it from moving on us. Now we got it snug, but we can still kind of play with it. We double check that that's tight and that it's centered right, and then we commence to tighten it. It's good to go across when you're tightening it, from here, then here, then here, then here. It keeps it kind of even, because you don't want to tighten too much on one side, and then it's not going to be even worth your time fixing. So we're just going to double check, make sure we got plenty of space. We're actually, so we need to pull it out just a hair. So we're free spinning from at this point, so that's good. And you're done. You see, it's freely, it's not rubbing on any plastic or anything, and it's stable, and that's good.